Doug and James, and AJ and Ben. Good to see y'all.
We're already getting a good turnout right off the bat.
So, so I'm trying to get this through on the virtual camera. So let's see if that works, because that way I can show you my screen, and but still show you my camera. Let's see.
Trying a stream this time too. So if any folks in the audience want to check out Twitter or YouTube, hopefully we have this going out. Try and reach a bit of a bigger audience this time. And similar to past house parties, after we go through a few demos, if anyone wants to come on up, show what they've been working on, just chat. We're always open to it. We love the engagement. So there you are, Killian.
Nice. Okay, good to see y'all. Um, yeah, and by the way, so I'm a little bit sick, so this might end up being a bit of a short one for me. But there's still some stuff that I want to show you. So happy August house party to y'all. And also happy 10,000 people on the Discord. That is probably the biggest achievement that we've had in this last month, publicly at least, is that we got 10,000 people in the Discord now. We also, in putting out the local 3 updates, we had uh, the most widest reach for any update that Open Interpreter has ever had. So we're growing much bigger all the time. This was bigger than the first launch was local 3, bigger than the O1 was local 3 in terms of impressions. Um, so I'm super excited. That was a big team effort to get something out the door for local models. And also shows how much people want this stuff to run locally. Um, so another huge thing that we got going on this time is a big docs update. So this is thanks to Mike, who has done a huge overhaul on the documentation for both Open Interpreter and for the O1. Um, so I kind of want to even share my screen and go through some of it with you. Can you see this okay? If I
Yes.
do that?
I see.
Yeah, there we go. That does seem to work.
Yeah, I can see
Okay, I'll
OBS.
get to that quite yet. So, documentation update all throughout the Open Interpreter page is now very much up to date. And we have some fantastic guides here too for folks getting uh, building on top of Open Interpreter, and also all these command line flags too, which we've been adding a lot of.
Sorry, Killian.
Those
I'm
are
just
all.
seeing OBS. I don't know if anyone in the
Oh,
chat's
well,
seeing a
okay.
different feed.
Oh no. Okay, how about now? Is it still out of date? Okay, here we go. How's that?
No, no better.
It's bigger. Is it moving around at least? Or is it
The
still stat? Oh, there we go. Oh my God, is it backwards?
no text is right direction. It's just showing Discord, not the docs.
Okay. Okay, sweet.
There
How
we
about
go.
now?
Nailed it.
Sweet. Um, yeah, all new docs from Mike. Um, we have we have a lot of new information too about running locally and all the things that we figured out too, especially through the local update. Useful settings that you can use. The way that the local 3 update put things into language models for the interpreter is kind of interesting. We have ways of saying this is the output of some code. This is how it should write code, um, and also some stuff too that AJ touched on a little while ago about looping it. So for local models, like actually trying to get them into a loop can be a very smart way to do things. So we have now part of the local update um, is force task completion, which I think has been renamed now to loop. And this is incredibly useful for those for local language models. Anyway, so there's tons of new stuff now in the docs. All of these are up to date, and it looks super good. Uh, I kind of want to show off the O1 docs, but actually, I think we should wait until there's a few other things that we get to talk about with the O1. So I'll wait until then to really show them off. But okay, on that local stuff that's been happening, Mike posted to Twitter, to X. You guys probably saw it. That he was running like on a Raspberry Pi Llama file and Ollama and playing around with a lot of really interesting local stuff. Um, Mike, did you get Open Interpreter to run any of those or have any interesting local
So Open
stuff?
Interpreter does run on it. What had issue is if we're trying to run Llama 3.1 at the same time, where it just wouldn't output anything. The thing got super hot, fan went crazy. But if you set it up to a hosted model, like you can even set it to a different computer in your network and point towards that. It worked great, as well as OpenAI. If you use a smaller model, you're able to do it all locally on device. It's just kind of dumb. So we're right at the cusp where one thing I found was neither Ollama nor Llama file would actually leverage the AI module that's on top of the Raspberry Pi. It just uses CPU. So if we can get an inference server that leverages that AI module, we're probably going to be able to make it happen. So we're right at the cusp. So if anyone is here is familiar with how we can actually leverage the AI kit, which goes on top of the Raspberry Pi through the M2 hat, if we can have the actual LLM running on that, so a bit more a CPU could be allocated to Open Interpreter, we're probably going to make it happen. So we might be able to have a fully contained device that's running tasks with agentic behavior using an LLM.
So awesome. Um, yeah, it's I remember too when we were putting out the Local 3 update, we had like a really shitty PC, like just like a $100 PC that was in the corner running Quen. Yeah, yeah, two dog on Quen 1.5. Um, and yeah, it was dumb, but it was fast and on a really really terrible machine. And so we just had it running infinitely to just see what it would come up with, but wasn't able to do much. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if somebody uses 405B now that that's out to train one of these really, really, really tiny models. I've seen crazy gains there. Okay, so on the agenda, um, the next thing too that we got is a little bit more on profiles. And actually, Mike just put in a Grok profile, which is pretty awesome. Although, actually, first, is there anything too to hit on this? Quen better than Phi for you? Um, yeah, two dog. Is it? Have you tested it out with with Phi? Okay, interesting. So Quen's better. Quen's newer too, so I wouldn't be surprised. Um, okay, yeah. So I think too that in the beginning of Open Interpreter, I remember Mr. Dragon Fox talking about this, that he actually kind of thought that very, very small models that ran on the CPU were going to end up being better because more people in the world even have CPUs. So I'm not even too upset about like Llama file being really, really good on CPU. If that ends up being the case and we find something that works without the AI hat on the Pi 5, I don't know. I could see that future. Um, Mike, on profiles, what was your experience with Grok and getting that profile in there?
Grok's fast. Grok's really fast. And what's cool about it is being still free. You can leverage a 70B model that is faster than local models. So I have two profiles that I want to share with the team here. Let's grab my.
Actually, before we get into it, is
Yep.
there a way, since we only got, 11 people here, we could do a call? Like, I'd be down to, like, either we could bring out more people on the stage, or we could switch it into just a call. Is there an easy way to do that, or do we have to all hop on?
Everyone can migrate to general.
Should we just migrate to the voice general chat?
Let's
I
do it.
know Two Dog, the O1 profile is now assistant. Um, will the stream keep going? Will that still work out if we go to the
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
the?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sweet. Okay, let's go to the general voice chat. See y'all there.
See it.
Hey, hey, oh my God, Abe too.
Hey,
Hey, hey. Okay. The only thing that we'll need to be conscious of is being muted.
Yes.
That's the only thing that will the change about this. But yeah, this seems more fun. I think there's actually a lot of interesting stuff I know Two Dog has been up to, so it would be sick to just have. feel free to be interjecting. Um, okay, yeah, sorry. So Mike, on that Grok, how's that been?
Yeah, Grok, and it's super easy to make a profile. So I
Oh,
just
you're
want.
muted, Mike.
Oh no.
It's the Slack all over again. We always have this on Slack where we'll all join the stand up and then everybody's muted and we're all just talking
Yeah,
nonsense.
beats that random background noise. But yeah, so creating Grok profiles super easy, super straightforward. As we've built out more profiles, it's very easy to just like copy paste it in. So we have I don't know probably 20 now up in the GitHub, and all you have to do is open it up in an editor, copy and paste the ones you want, and kind of paste it together. Um, the two I want to show, one is Grok, which just sets up a instance of OpenInterpreter pointed at your Grok, and you just set a local API key. And then the other actually leverages a local model to talk to your database. So I'll show you Grok first. I just did a split screen because I want to show you the database after. Basically, it's just we haven't merged it yet, so I'm just using Poetry. Profile Grok makes a connection. I have it set to Llama 3.170B Versatile, which is the highest performing model they have available right now. They are on the cusp of releasing 405B, but they haven't yet, so we're stuck with this one for now. But when you just ask it, the classic, how many files on my desktop? It just speed runs the entire thing. Which file is the biggest? Of course, the Llama file is. So Grok is great. And what I also did on top of making the profile was now you can have it set to pass in as a flag. So poetry run I Grok. It'll automatically set this profile. I imagine as we evolve more profiles, you're probably going to want to have different flags. But for the meantime, since it's the only one, same thing. What is the biggest file on my desktop? And just blazes it out. And it's significantly faster than even the local models. And I have an M2 Max, so not like top of the line, but a decent enough machine that I can run 8Bs faster than most. And it's probably about 3 times slower than Grok.
Is Grok still free?
I think they still have free models up there. Because their pay-per-use program is just about to start. You can't sign up for it yet, but rumor is they're starting to do this.
You're not. I noticed you don't have auto run on.
No.
You're not ready for that. You're not ready for
Grok
to just
Grok spits things out so quickly. I want to make sure I give at least a cursory glance at what it's going to do. You know, still driving a car. Keep your hands on the road. Keep your hands on the wheel. Should I pop to the other demo real quick?
Yeah.
So if you saw the tweet, I just made a little demo database, just a little Postgres, nothing fancy. It uses AI just to populate it. So we just have a small sales table. And what I did was I set up a profile called Talk to DB. What I wanted to demonstrate with this is you don't just use profiles to set the model. You can actually set profiles to optimize for certain use cases. So as you start orchestrating multiple interpreters in order to accomplish different goals, you'll want to try to tailor each one to a specific task. So I wanted to set up a talk to your DB. I see people paying for the service. You don't have to pay for the service. So with this one, all it does is it gets the connection string to connect to the Postgres database. If you want something a little more robust, set it as environment variables that it pulls out. And then I kind of nudged it in the custom instructions to be better. So all you can say is something like, how many sales in July? And you can see 15 rows. We have 2 in May, 2 in June, so 11 in July. It'll write the code for it. It's a little more robust code than usual. Also, I didn't mention this profile uses Llama 3.1 running locally. Number of sales in July 11. So even without internet connection, I'm not saying this data, because database data can be very important. You don't necessarily want to send that to a hosted service. So this is all running on my local machine. This is obviously a very mediocre example. As you get more data, it'll become more complex, but that'll just require you to kind of be more prescriptive in the profile you create. So by all means, take this profile, change it to wherever you want. If you put up another PR to try to like build out the capability of the OpenInterpreter community, that would be much appreciated.
That is so awesome, Mike. That's insane. Um, yeah. By the way, just to provide some context to profiles too, if anybody has not seen them too much. Um, okay, so this is a community that is trying to figure out in the open how to get language models to control computers. And the thesis of this project is language models should control computers by writing and running code, and then getting the output and feeding that back into the model. And there are, in the kind of in the GPT world, there's like the GPT store. When you have a cloud thing, that's somewhat compelling, and you have different knowledge sources and things like that. But when you have agentic entities that are using different programs, and are maybe they have authentication into different programs, this becomes really smart to try to standardize. So Profiles was born actually out of conversations too with AutoGen, and the idea here is, can we get some kind of standard interface for developers to make agents? So the is that Profiles would be something that you can create that will specify the language model, what tools it has access to, what knowledge it has, the passwords and everything that it could be connected to. That includes, of course, system message and all those templates too I was showing you earlier about how it responds when code comes back into it. Every single thing you can set on any one of these agentic systems like AutoGen or OpenInterpreter, that would work with all of those, and that's called a profile. So a profile of an agent, and the goal here is to make something that is shareable. So the profile system right now in OpenInterpreter, you do interpreter dash dash profile, and then you can actually put in a path to a profile, and we have tons of documentation on how to make a profile. Where you can put in a URL to a profile too. So the dream here is that we would have like maybe a community repo of profiles. For now, if you just want to be merging it literally into OpenInterpreter, into the development branch, and putting things into that profiles folder, we had some folks do a Snowflake one that was really interesting. Two Dog, you were talking about the O1 profile was in there for a while. That's been renamed to Assistant. And so then kind of the idea here is that the O1 would use the assistant profile inside OpenInterpreter, but then without the O1, you can still use it. So we set a rename it to Assistant. But there's a CodeStroll profile that's optimal settings for CodeStroll. There's a Llama profile. There's a Qwen profile that's optimal settings for all those language models. But what's even more interesting, I think, is the idea of optimal profiles for different tools and use cases and jobs and things that agents are going to do in the future. So yeah, that is incredible. Now we have a Grok one. Now we have a talk to the DB one, and I love the idea of folks kind of forking it, and anything else that we can get in there. We're gonna have an E2B one up soon, too, which will replace the actual Python interpreter with a cloud interpreter that runs it on a hosted environment. So you can imagine running, interpreter dash dash profile E2B, and then now it's OpenInterpreter, but it's running everything in a cloud environment. Lots of flexibility there, and hopefully stuff that's portable to other great things. Okay, I just want to see. Shortcut says functions and self-replicating on deck. Oh yeah. E2B is amazing, and there's very cool E2B stuff too that I'm gonna share at the end of this. Okay, thanks so much, Mike. There's a bunch of little new things too in OpenInterpreter now. I'll just quickly, like a few of them, we got the ability to turn off active line highlighting is in there. That's a flag. I think it's like active line, no active line. That's bugged some people who are like SSHing into it, especially because it's like flashing like crazy. We have a great Jupyter export too. If you do %help when you're in a chat, you can see all these commands that are there now to export your conversation to a Jupyter notebook. Ty, who's here, wrote that and did an incredible job on that. We also have an export to Markdown now too, I think by Steve from the community. And that's incredibly useful. You have a conversation and you want to export it to a beautiful Markdown, and then you can use that as a PDF or whatever. Okay, I'm going to get into a quick little demo here too. Anybody, any questions on that or thoughts on profiles or anything? Like Abe too, I noticed you'd said kind of, oh, just that you kind of want to look into profiles. Like that's totally a case too. The things that you guys are building, it feels like profiles would be pretty helpful. Um, but any thought before we move into what's next? All right. Oh, and Emil too, the idea of having a file that would be for Linux. Actually, that would be a pretty sick. I don't know how has that progressed with you guys? Because actually, I think there's a lot of things here about that, the development of that as a profile or as a fork or as anything. But right now, a lot of the computer tools being Mac specific. Um, what are you thinking about Linux? You hate that. But any
We
luck with
are. Can you hear me?
Working on it. Yes.
Yeah, we're making progress. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Actually, we'd like to touch base with you some point soon because there's a little bit of Mac Linux wall we're kind of hitting, and we sort of
Emil's hitting
like
it
to have a
too.
conversation. Yeah. Emil and Abe and I are all kind of
We've
working in the same
we've
blob
been-
of work.
we've been working on
with
tools.
Avenger.
We've been working recently, or I've been working recently on trying to build up a library of tools that it can use similar to the computer API with mixed success. But hopefully that's something that we can get working soon.
Yeah, I wonder what
Well,
I'll go for it.
Sorry, no, I was saying I've been trying out what Abe is doing, and so far, it's I am finding it more enjoyable in the terminal and running on the Raspberry Pi 5. So, it's pretty awesome so far.
Yeah, great work, Abe. That's so awesome that if anybody hadn't seen that, it was shared in the general, I think, a little while back about the work of getting a really, really nice.
We'll
agent.
hopefully have some demos up soon. We've had success with having it write and upload sketches to an Arduino and an ESP32. So hopefully we'll have some demos of that working up soon on the Open Interpreter Discord.
I'm gonna get it talking to some stepper motors soon as well, so we can, give it robot arms and cannons and all
Love
that
it.
kind of fun stuff.
Cannons.
Well, you Nerf cannons.
I actually
That's
tried uploading, some code into an ESP32 cam using your repo, Abe, and it worked pretty well.
Yeah, we got one of those
so-
same cameras you sent the link for today, and we got it. Yeah, it's working pretty flawlessly as far as that goes.
Whoa, what is
Yeah.
that? Just as a webcam to
It's literally a $7, $6, ESP32 camera. That's running a kind of a small server to take a picture, send it to GPT directly, and comes up with some responses. Just playing around with some cool plans coming up for accessibility and assistance in general. So stay tuned.
that is so awesome. I mean, this is a good time too to mention that there is a accessibility roundtable that is happening on August 22nd at 12 p.m. PT, and there we can kind of like really go deep into accessibility and using computer controlling agents for accessibility.
Yeah, huge thanks to James and A and the Human Devices team. We're working quite well together for the accessibility use case, and would love to see more people kind of jump on board. I think, Mike, yesterday we finally got Bricks working, so we can distribute free credits.
Huge. Thank you so much for that too, and everything that you've done. By the way, you guys met through Open Interpreter, right? Like, or was there a connection
Correct.
before?
Yes.
Okay,
No.
cool.
No.
Oh,
I've met I don't know, a half a dozen good people in here. I'm working with like 4 or 5 of them. That's been really cool.
So, okay, sick. Um, yeah, it's interesting too to think about this, and I think would be helpful for a lot of projects that people are working on. But like, what does a more universal version of a mail tool look like, or of a of an email client, or of a something to send out messages to even to other interpreters? What does a more universal browser look like? Um,
In most cases, it uses Python libraries. Like right now, I've got a web search tool that uses the DuckDuckGo search.
what was that?
Whoa.
Who
I
did
think that
that?
was a soundboard going off accidentally by someone. I don't know. And anyway,
Big Brother doesn't like you, Abe. You've been censored.
it probably not intentional. Okay. Well, it looks like right now it looks like using Python libraries that are just generally usable anywhere where Python is installed. We've got so far I've had successful tools for downloading images, for sending WhatsApp messages, and for sending emails. The browser search one I'm still working on. Because right now it just returns a bunch of URLs to pages and not actual information. But yeah, we're working on it. But it's
Yeah,
mostly
and we're
Python libraries.
focusing. Yeah, just focusing on a platform agnostic set of what we're calling
Yeah.
tools instead of skills because it just fits better for how we're doing it. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It
getting there.
also goes pretty hands in hand with the knowledge base we've been working on, which has been pretty successful so far. We're looking for a better RAG engine. Right now, we've just been using LangChain and an SQLite database. But after checking out RagFlow and MemZero and PhiData, we have some other ideas for RAG systems we want to experiment with. So hopefully that will improve soon as well.
The guy at Mem02, formerly Embed Chain, is great, and that's a really really interesting project. And I think that they, at least when it was Embed Chain, it was I think it was Chroma under the hood. It was like LangChain document loaders plus Chroma.
Yeah.
Also, GraphRag has been really interesting. Like Microsoft trying to get into the game and have just a tool that lets you search over a knowledge base and do graph, but in a RAG way. It's really cool. Yeah, I wonder too if some of these other tool libraries that are out there. This is interesting too because we're really just functions. All that's trying to be built like existing Python library stuff. And I think that the cool thing about Open Interpreter that I found when I was first playing with it is that it just exposes tons of great open source tools to people who otherwise wouldn't have found them or known how to compose them together. So the fact that just all of pip, if I want to have what's the movie editor tool? MoviePy, FFmpeg. These are existing fantastic, command line or Python interfaces into great movie editors and things. And to just have a language model being the one to pull them out and bring them together, it's just like exposing pip to lots of normal people who otherwise don't have access to pip, or aren't usually building little things with pip. So it's interesting to think too about if we're searching for things like email or these other kinds of tools. I went ahead and built out the first round with the new Computer Update 2 and put out a ton of great tools that used AppleScript because we just found that blended so beautifully into the Apple ecosystem that a mail to uses AppleScript. Calendar uses your actual calendar, uses AppleScript to access it. And that's very cool in the Mac ecosystem. But outside of that, I wonder if I think like Composio is one that's doing really well on GitHub right now. Is like specifically libraries that are trying to just make the tool part of this. I mean, if we had a great way to connect to those other great projects and have them pulled in and have a model that has a system message that points to all these kinds of I mean, they're just functions. There's no AI going on in those projects. So we actually have decades of projects that we get to use to try to satisfy that as like platform agnostic tools. I don't know if anyone's played with Composio or anything like that, but I'm going to take us into a little bit of a different place. There is the open interpreter that you can build on, which is the Python library. We have been working on a Docker image, which is going to let you do things without ever even thinking about Python. But there is the version and we talked to at the last party too about building it in Rust and having a version of Open Interpreter that is really easy for people to build on. There is another side of Open Interpreter, which is that's like the core folder in the main repo, and then there's the terminal interface folder in the main repo. And so that's for folks that are actually just using the terminal interface and trying to do stuff on their computer in the terminal interface. And as a lot of you know, we've also been trying to work on something even simpler than the terminal interface for people that are not developers. But there is one thing that I want to show you. Let me know if you can see my screen. Okay. Can you see my terminal?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
The next update to Open Interpreter is the developer update. We have been working on a lot of really, really interesting stuff in the world of trying to get Open Interpreter to write files of code, get diffs and submit them into those files of code. This is a different approach from it using tools to like check your email and be an assistant. This is like, what if, you had a interpreter acting as your junior developer and you were able to tell it to build projects and they were more stateful and it was more about writing code and then, running that whole code and looking at that. That is a way that some people use Open Interpreter. It's worth distinguishing between those two. That there's a version of this where it's running small snippets to try to get things done, and there's a version of this where it's writing big bits of code. I think Claude Engineer has also super shown that this can be a really, really powerful direction to go in for developers. And there's some changes that we're making to Open Interpreter to make it really, really nice for developers and really integrate well with Git and do things in a smart way that makes it useful for developers. This is just a fun one that I use all the time. That's from this upcoming update, which you can get right now too by pip installing from Git. I'll paste the command in the Discord. But just as an example of some of the fun things that we've been working on, has anybody seen the fuck command? It's like huge on GitHub. It's something that makes it so that if you have an error in your terminal, you can type in fuck, and then it looks at the error, and then it just uses regex to try to solve it, and just quickly send you something back.
That'd be a great band name.
Yep. We have a command now in Open Interpreter, which is WTF. So if I do something that makes an error, I can type WTF. It looks at what's in my terminal and then really quickly gives me the code to run. It is so useful and so fast. So anytime you see an error that's like, oh, this port is whatever, it's still open, you can just type WTF, and then in barely any time at all, you will get from whatever model you have specified in your default profile. So that could be a local model or it could be a hosted model. You'll get a response, and it's a response that you can immediately type. So again, that's like pip install numpy, doesn't work, WTF. It literally just control A's and looks over all the things in your terminal and then sends that over as context to the model. And that was it took a while to figure out how to get proper context in the terminal, but this feels like such an obvious thing that if we want Open Interpreter to be this thing in the terminal. I love too, actually. I don't think that this is that a real. I don't think that's a real package. Yay! Nice. Okay, so that's kind of a fun thing, but that is a bit of a preview at some of the, at least on the terminal interface, that's kind of an interesting like new way to use Open Interpreter, and hopefully in combination with the stuff that we're doing to improve the capabilities of Open Interpreter and have it be really really good in agentic kind of developer sense, combined with new ways of using Open Interpreter in your terminal. Hopefully, it can be like actually beneficial for us developers, and be a tool that we can use. Okay, so in addition to that, when we tried to do as we've been working on the developer update, a huge thing that we've been working on, and I'm going to paste too for anybody that wants that command that I just said, you can just run this in your terminal and you'll get it. You run that, you type WTF, you're done. But one thing that we tried, and actually I would love your feedback on it, because something I'm worried about is that let's make sure that it works on everybody's computer before we push it to pit. But something else that we've been working on through the developer update has been Sui. It's been SuiBench. We've been trying to use the SuiBench harness, which was set up by Devin. Like they were the people to really pioneer like a new way of running the SuiBench and the harness and all with Docker. And then since then, the Sui folks have updated it with that, but there's still not a really easy way to do it. So in the next few weeks, when we put out the developer update, we're also going to be putting out an API that lets you run SuiBench. It's going to be much easier. So there is this huge headache right now of trying to get these models like on SuiBench and try to figure out what your SuiBench score is. And we just have found that we've needed to build all that infrastructure, and per the culture of this whole project, we want to expose that to a lot of people and make it so that if you are building some agentic thing, or even if you want to test out your profile in the SuiBench or something like that, we're going to have an API that lets you upload your predictions. To be clear, this is a SuiBench is like thousands and thousands of issues across real issues that a developer would need to solve, and then a very complicated set of tests that run to verify if a particular patch submitted as an answer to that was correct or not. And it just is a huge pain to set that up. So hopefully that can speed up this ecosystem of getting great agents. Sui is a really, really good benchmark. There are a lot of bad benchmarks out there we found, and digging into actually all those bits. Sui is a really good one, and it's a very rigid one. So as opposed to something that is like vibes based, if we can make agents really, really good developers, then we can make agents very good at reasoning across a lot of things. So hopefully this is going to make it easier for other people building agentic developers to test what they're doing. So that's the next update of Open Interpreter. There's way more stuff that is, but that's going to be probably out between now and the next house party, and then at the next house party, I can really go in deep on everything we've been working on and give you our Sui score. Okay, so the next thing, first of all, is there any thoughts on that, or any questions or something to dig into? Okay. Or is there anything in the chat? Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the O1 rewrite. So I don't know if Kai is here. But Kai has been working with us since the O1 has done incredible open source stuff and making the first version of the O1 app, which is in the repo, in the O1 repo. And something that we've been trying to do is rewrite the O1 to be streaming end to end. And I'm very happy to say that this is now in the repo. So what I mean by that is that before, when the O1 first came out, this is just a voice interface on top of Open Interpreter. What it was doing was it was blocking. So you would say something to it, and then it would store that audio file, and then it would transcribe the whole thing in one go, and then it would go and put it into the language model, and then it would get the response back, and then it would voice it sentence by sentence. So it was a little bit fast on that, but it was fundamentally not streaming all the way, which also meant that all the interesting stuff that's been happening with GPT-4o voice was not going to work with our infrastructure. So we totally gutted it and rewrote the entire O1, and every single line of that now is completely different. One thing you'll notice that there's left to do is that there's still a bunch of archive files that's in the repo. After this, I'll go out and I'll clean them out so that this doesn't confuse anybody. But the O1 now is an incredibly lightweight project, as it should be. And that's really thanks, by the way, to Koya Longren, who has a real-time STT and real-time TTS on GitHub. And these are fantastic libraries that I hope anybody who's interested in voice interface technology contributes to. They are both like the grand central station of open source voice interface stuff. You can really easily switch out your TTS provider. You can easily switch out your STT provider, and it is bytes in, bytes out streaming generators between both those. Really great open source technology. So what we've done is we've just found a way to get those packages and use them with Open Interpreter's server and expose that over a fast API endpoint. So what that means is that you can take the code that we wrote for the O1 Lite, which is the ESP32 code. I know earlier someone was like, "Oh, it'd be great to have that running." There is code that's out there that is the client.ino file, which it just beams audio out of the microphone upon the button being held down to a WebSocket endpoint. And at that WebSocket endpoint, that's the O1 server. Just 2 files or 3 files, including the start one, like starting the CLI flags. And that is going to act as a speech-to-speech WebSocket streaming interface. And it is running all streaming. Every byte as it comes in is transcribed as it comes in and turned to text. It obviously blocks at that point and then sends it off to the language model once that's done. But then once stuff comes out of it, once text is generated, streaming chunks out of that and voicing them as they're being generated, and then immediately throwing them back out to the device or to whatever's on the other end, which might be the computer that you're using. It might be that the client and the server are both on the same thing. Anyway, all that is to say that the O1 rewrite is out. It's really good. It is much smaller. It's much easier to understand. It abides by profiles too. So there's no difference now in configuration between Open Interpreter and the O1. At some point, to be honest, we're probably going to fold these repos together and just have one agentic interface into computers. But for now, the O1 is the voice interface project, and then the Open Interpreter is the computer controlling agent project. But that's out, and now you can. There's incredible new documentation written by Mike too, that is incredibly explicit about how to set up the server, and about how to set it up on the ESP32, and about how to set it up on your desktop. And coming in very soon too is how to set it up using your iPhone or your Android phone. We just got our Google Play Store account, so we can throw up an app. But that's not out yet. But I want to show off the docs for a second so you can see what I'm talking about here too. Here is the new docs for the O1. We have the software, and this is the server. Incredibly broken down too into this. This is a much better way of we previously had things kind of very O1 Lite centric, but this is meant to be an ecosystem of very different kinds of devices that are going to be computer controlling agents with voice interfaces. This is a much broader thing. So now this is the server and this is the client, and the client, the O1 Lite is a client, You can have custom hardware be the client, a mobile phone, or your own desktop computer. Great new docs. We found a way to trim down the dependencies by quite a bit too. There's no reason to have a lot of that stuff that we had in there now that we're using Koya's voice interfaces. And the configuring is so much easier. And again, it's all compatible with Open Interpreter. Actually, there's this one change to profiles, which is that you'll need to use a slightly different file at the top. But you can come to this page to o1.openinterpreter.com/software/configure, and you can build a profile for the O1 that is based on this example profile or many of the other profiles that we have. I think we have a local profile, we have a fast profile, and a default profile. Local runs Koki TTS, really high quality text to speech, completely locally, literally like 11 labs quality, but nothing is leaving your computer. And we have the fast one is using Grok, and I think 11 labs, which is incredibly fast. But the thing I'm most excited about, honestly, is that Mike has gone ahead and broken down the O1 Lite into sections. Much easier. So here's the bill of materials. It is right on the docs, super easy to access. We got the case with some incredible stuff by James.
Hey, guy.
Using the case that he designed, which is a huge improvement on the one that we had before. And here's reviewing the whole case and going over all that in this video. And then same too for assembly. Thank you so much, James, for all this incredible stuff. This makes it so much easier, I think, for people to try to build their own ESP32 based devices like the O1 Lite. And this one here, for the person who is asking, you don't have to follow these other ones. You could just follow the ESP32. If you have an ESP32 and you want to set it up with that, you can use that and follow this tutorial to flash it. James, what were you going to say?
There will be more coming. There's some interesting active development going on there.
Ooh. Any hints in the direction of it, or is it just kind
of? We may be designing a custom, like an O1 open source PCB. Yeah.
That's huge. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Really. This needs that. You have no idea how pain it has been well, you do know how much of a pain it has been to have like the stuff that's out there, like the M5 Atom speaker that we have.
Yep.
It just is there is so much demand for what you just said about having a custom PCB.
There really is. So we're looking at having something available in the next 2 months or so. Of course, I say that, and by saying that, I've cursed myself to be late because that's how product development goes. But yeah, there's some interesting development. I don't want to go too much into it right now because you're talking and whatever, but like I'll shut up. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff happening there. And we're going to also try to get the O1 hardware, like the PCB, to get it into not only the normal O1 form factor, but like a generic form factor that developers can put in their own products and stuff like that. So, like sell one that's like naked and no terminals and all that kind of stuff. If people like, a headerless one or whatever, if people want to design a product with AI chat enabled, they've got like an off the shelf unit.
There was a moment that electricity was demonstrated for the first time in front of the Queen of England, I think, and I remember reading something about the response that she had. It was like, this is a toy. This, what is this going to do for the world? And the person responded back and was like, it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be in everything. James, it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be in everything. Like the idea of a little bit of a brain.
That's why we want to make one. We got a few different products like this planned. We're going to have a non-camera version, of course, and a camera version, and some others. Anyway, I get all excited. I'll shut up.
I'm just as excited, and I would love to be as loud as possible about that with you too, and use what we've built as the O1 community, like all the open source stuff that we have out, like to try to get that out to as many people as possible, because that's
Wait till you see the AI dev kit we're working on. Yeah, I think everybody will like that.
Yeah, I can see it in this is an idea of you just are putting it into a product. Like if you have an idea of like I want like a talking toy or like a a talking Roomba or something, then I have an off-the-shelf way of doing that. That doesn't exist.
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Or if you want to like build it into your house or something, a bunch of little ESP32 camera endpoints or whatever, watch you walk around your house and do whatever you want to do with your AI, stuff like that. We want to make it really easy to develop products on top of this, because it's like so many people in Discord have approached us going, we've got a product idea, you know how to do hardware, what about this, this, and this, and like, could we do that? And all of them have similar commonalities, and we're like, with 3 products we could get these people to be able to do this stuff off the shelf. Because otherwise somebody's got to come up with tens of thousands of dollars, and
Yeah.
But anyway, I get excited. I'm sorry, I'll shut up. Continue.
It's a huge part of the vision that this community is, and the story of this whole thing is that, okay, like our goal being to be the Linux of the space. Linux doesn't make hardware. This is to have people who know really, really well what is happening in hardware. You've been doing it for so long and have done so.
Yeah, we want to basically build the hardware equivalent of Linux, or like think Raspberry Pi for AI.
Yes.
Like if you're doing development, you buy Arduino, you buy Raspberry Pi for hardware development. We want to do that for incorporating AI into products. This
is so huge. I wanted to give this to the space for a proper big launch and thing. So this is I won't keep. I could talk for hours about that.
Yeah, same here.
Like, it does seem kind of absurd that with a $7 or $8 piece of tech, you can actually host a server, you can actually host a client, the ESP32 and this kind of stuff. Even a Raspberry Pi Zero, $15. So, what I think the idea, and why I'm 100%, everything that James is doing and the rest of the open source community is doing with these devices, it's going to be a game changer. And I'm glad we have brightest minds in this community to make that happen.
Yeah, me too. Okay, well, truly there is so much that can happen in that direction. One thing that I can connect this and then get to the last demo is that those devices are maybe they're going to be communicating with a server, so they'll be over the internet, and they'll be communicating with a server that's running a language model, or maybe has the internet and is itself connected to another language model. Maybe they're going to be devices that have both of those components in one. So it's just a voice interface into something that is itself running the language model, or is itself connecting to the language model. But there are some instances where you want a very lightweight device like an ESP32 that has no shot at running a language model to connect over the internet or over some means to something that can beam voice to it, and it can beam speech back. So the software that we've built of a WebSocket that is a speech-to-speech interface at root, just trying to really standardize on that you send me bytes of audio to root over the WebSocket, and I as the server will send bytes of audio back. And that as long as you can build something that works over that protocol, then we're going to have talking things around us very soon. There's another way of doing it, though. For devices that can handle it, there's BETAC, there's WebRTC. So, the ESP32, we made a decision to not go with WebRTC and just go with WebSockets because we weren't sure if we could really get something with as much overhead as WebRTC working. But, for example, while we've been working on the iPhone app, there are really, really significant gains that you get from instead doing it over WebRTC. The way that we are talking right now is over WebRTC. The way that Zoom works, the way that Google Meet works, is all over WebRTC. And there's a reason why the voice-to-voice technology community standardize on WebRTC. When you're on a call with somebody and you hear that little skip of like their voice almost elongating for a moment as you're talking to them, if you have something that does not have all that kind of incredible like buffering technology that's in there and everything that's been happening with WebRTC development over the past 20 years, it's quite stuttery and it's quite apparent. And there is a reason why, for example, the ChatGPT app uses WebRTC. So their voice-to-voice interfaces all use WebRTC. And we are going to bring WebRTC to the O1. So what we've done with the application, with the iOS and the Android app, is that we have Kai has been working really, really hard. Ben Zhu here on Discord on a LiveKit based WebRTC interface into the O1. It's super lightweight. It's incredibly robust. And if you have a device that's just a little bit more powerful than an ESP32 and it's a WebRTC, it can handle WebRTC, then this is definitely the way that you're going to want to do it. Now, the thing I'm going to lead into with all of this is that, the server on the other end, that is something that you're gonna have to set up yourself. You gotta go get a computer and be it with WebRTC, the stuff that we're gonna be putting out here, or with the O1 over a WebSocket. When we had a Ngrok was how we were doing it over the internet, so you could connect that way. It's definitely the way to do it if you want everything to be running locally. But sometimes for development, or maybe for something like the app that we're going to be putting out, you'll notice in the O1 video, I promised 2 ways that people were going to be able to use the O1. One was to connect it to their computer, which I imagine this is the way that a lot of people want to do this, or connect it to a computer running in the cloud. So I'm gonna show you our progress on the Agents API. So what this is it's an O1 server if you do it by voice, or just an open interpreter server if you do it just by text. But instead of you can set up any one of these devices or be using it inside your applications or however you want to use it, connecting to a computer that we have been working with E2B to have hosting all the O1 technology with all the WebRTC stuff, with all the WebSocket voice interface stuff, and an OpenAI compatible endpoint too. Really incredible server technology that is all just you can spin one up with an API call, you can connect to it really, really easily. So for anybody then that's building these devices too, this feels like a no-brainer for getting it set up, or maybe even for production here, which is that you would make the device, that's the client, you get the hardware from James, and you connect it then to a machine running in the cloud that is compatible with that. That machine it's a Linux machine. It has a display. It can do any kind of GUI control stuff. It's loaded up with the best open source software that we can, all the best computer tools, and I'm going to demo it for you right now. I'm just going to get my API key, which I can't show you. And by the way, so what I show you here too, if anybody is interested, please DM me, and then you can be the first folks to have an API key into this if you want to be testing it out. And it'd be great to work with everybody too and see where is this useful. For us, we need it because of the O1 deployments that we want to have for this app and everything that we're building. We're also going to want it to just to have cloud agents and all the kinds of things that we're doing. But I know that by exposing it, I think, to other folks and letting people just spin up an agent in the cloud that has a computer attached to it, this feels like the right abstraction for what a lot of us are doing. And I got my API key now. So I'm going to spin this up. Okay. Can you see my screen okay?
No.
No? Oh. Okay.
Yep.
It's slowly fading in. There we go.
It's working now?
Yeah.
Okay, so literally just threw this together super quickly to try to show it off. The main fun stuff here is that it is a API that spins up desktop agents, and there's a bunch of endpoints that you'd expect from this, but we also have a playground too. So this is all going to be on api.openinterpreter.com pretty soon. But let's see if this works. I can create an agent. And again, this is, if you're thinking about building with the Open Interpreter or the O1 server, this is how you can do this much, much more easily. You create an agent, you spin it up. This is the ID now for the agent. All the endpoints are super designed so simply, /agents/ the ID of your agent. That right there is a WebSocket interface now that you can connect to the power agentic technology. Okay, let's try it out. I'm connected to this agent now. I'm going to say, so one thing, so this will all be in the docs, but we now have proper authentication for these things. So I can send my auth over to verify that the WebSocket connection is right. We're trying to, as much as we possibly can, to make this stuff as robust and secure as possible, and make it so that, you are the only one talking to this agent. You have total safety over it. But by it running on the cloud, there are some nice things here where the fact that it's kind of running code and going wild, we have now a great way of approving code remotely away from the server. And this will go into the O1 pretty soon. But in this case, I think this one is actually just set to go ahead and run code. So this is super work in progress. Let's see if it works. It does. So it sends things in a format called LMC, which is very, very similar to the OpenAI format, but it has types. So it's totally multimodal, and in the future will accept video and voice. And we want to make it super prepared for the future of what agents are going to be like. Say, what operating system are you on? And this is our super debuggy interface to try to see what it is it's sending back. So that's why it has all this information. But it's very, very easy to imagine it. So here it is, writing some code to figure out what operating system it's on. Operating system Linux version 1. Done. It's done. It gave us its operating system. So this will be live really, really soon with the developer update. We're going to have this out, and maybe a little bit before it. But for anybody who wants to be playing around with this, with the Agents API, DM me, and I'll get you on the list to be able to play with it. Okay. Any thoughts on this, or or questions or vibes?
This is just pretty fucking awesome, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Like I've been kind of shocked this entire time. Like, yeah, vibes, vibes, awesome.
But
Speechless.
oh my god, thanks so much. Anton too, good to see you. I didn't see her. Yeah, thanks so much. This has been tons of work. And it's felt like, everything that this project is aspiring to be, we're slowly hitting the milestones of trying to be that. And of course, too, everything that we have here in that whole machine will be open source, and it's something that you can be hosting yourself, if you want to have full control and do it free and do it locally and do it privately. But yeah, we hope to pretty soon provide like an abstraction around LLMs. By the way, that is going to be an OpenAI compatible endpoint, which means anybody who is building right now with the OpenAI API can literally just change their API base to api.openinterpreter.com. And then your model ID is the name of your agent. So then all you have to do is you say your model, and your model's name is like Killian. Set it as that. Your whole project now, when you ask it what time it is, it knows. When you ask it something that's current information, it knows because it can browse the web. When you ask it to perform any kind of thing that requires a literal display, it supports images, it supports everything. It's all compatible with OpenAI's endpoint. But behind the scenes, it's going to be controlling a computer. And then if you change your model ID to another name, then you'll be talking to a different agent with different memories and with different things that is on its computer. And there's going to be an upload endpoint and a bunch of stuff like that. So, if what we're trying to build here is agents controlling computers, we thought it was a good idea to make that as easy as possible for everybody. And so hopefully if anybody's building something with an OpenAI compatible API, they can just point it, try this out. And if anybody's building on the O1 tech too, they can just point it and try it out. Okay, that's a taste of what has been going on at Open Interpreter. That's just part of it. The team will know how shocking it is, how I'm not talking about some other things. But we've been working super hard, and this is all coming very soon, and a lot of it's already out. A lot of it's on the repo, and I think that about does it. Do we want to open it up into what anybody else is working on and general reactions or questions?
I mean, I know I want to hear from Two Dog.
Yeah, totally.
Please, let's hear from him.
Two Dog, how has it been? So Two Dog, last time, for anybody who didn't see it demoed, just can't like I can't even describe it. And all of us were so shocked that like how had this not been? This was right before too, I think, before Apple Intelligence and WWDC, and was just way ahead of what they had and still is. But is all running using shortcuts and just incredible agentic stuff that Two Dog is building. So Two Dog, how has it been?
Well, I appreciate you guys asking. It's been going really well. Since we last saw what I was doing on the iPhone, I've kind of reduced a lot of those tools by just dialing in my prompts with the Pythonista tool, the scriptable tool, and then mostly the A shell terminal tool, which I was already using, but I've got it like really listening well to URL and X callback schemes to open apps with parameters and going deeper. And so with the 4.0 mini, I've been playing around with that idea of the judge, jury, or the society of thoughts, and just basically getting recursive improvements on individual steps. And I think one of the last things that, because man, I've listened to that video. I can't thank you guys enough for giving me so much time, but I blabbed on, and I like a lot of those mistakes it made were amazing for, taking that feedback to dial things in. But basically, at this point, it's like I don't really know what else to do. It's just literally doing everything. I've got opening ArcGIS maps with parameters if I want to go forage horsetail. I mean, it's all been really dialed into
Oh my god.
Farm Friend. It's kind of led in now to this Flipper Zero thing and writing specific scripts and flashing that and kind of taking this more into hardware and using that Wi-Fi dev board to be able to play around with flashing potentially, small Quen local models with Open Interpreter right onto pre-existing farm equipment, and then everything else. I'm kind of picturing just the idea of like a metaphorical spray paint to bring everything into the modern age through what you guys have created by just dumping it on there. And one other thing I want to say, because this is why I showed this off at Open Interpreter, those shortcuts now with what I'm trying to do with this profile and get it to treat these shortcuts as extremely reliable functions, because outside of the profiles we're making, I think that, I've got the ability to extract a JSON and an HTML now from shortcuts. The only holdup is there's a bit of a bridge to certain third-party applications, shortcut app intents that I can't access. And so you hit something of a wall at a certain point, but it's still going to give us a lot more flexibility to make individual tools. But what I was showing the last time, it's not like I've been able to load Open Interpreter on the Apple. It's like the architecture logic that you guys developed, or like the schema, or I don't know what else to call it, but it's like, that's kind of like what I had to do there in terms of, say making it the robot that's in the car. But yeah, I'm going to get some new demos up. Like I said, a lot of this has been reduced down to using the terminal and Python code. I've got the Raspberry Pi 5 now as a tool that it just runs scripting into. So I'm using that as like a diagnostic tool with Wireshark and Nmap and some Kali Linux options where it's like, with permission, I'll be able to go onto a farm and just say, meet the entire family of every single sensor and IoT hardware. And then from there, I won't take a lot of time, but the next biggest thing I'm working on is something of a self-replication profile, and having Open Interpreter just whip up other instances of itself with smaller models, kind of like that router schema, the open route or the route LLM thing. But it's like, why even do that when Open Interpreter can just become the octopi that holds itself? And then the last thing I'll say is I've been experimenting a lot with, if what I showed you is kind of like the robot in the car, let's say, metaphor, well, let's picture the octopus that's holding an octopus at the end of every tentacle. Well, I had AI running then in the API calls of those tools. Well, I've now made a version where I can just make a setting with an if then, and it will take the AI processing out of the tool. So it's like you were seeing me give directions from one AI, and then that was going into tools that I made to fire off individually before I got into the tool calling and had it take on that agentic role. So now it's like I'm getting way better resource management, way better results with just like a hard plan with no tool list, giving it natural language descriptions of what the tools are, then passing that to 4.0. And then I think only like 2 or 3 tools now have 4.0 mini in there to sort of like recursively turn that on. But then with the flip of a switch, you can just turn that on. So that's kind of where I'm at with the schemas. I've got the Raspberry Pi 5 rolling with a camera now. I've got some automation scripts for it to like analyze, and if say there's motion or something comparatively to a smaller interval, the interval of taking more photos can become dynamic, or it can load the Pi camera module and then just run infinite and say like store that for a certain amount of time. So I'm really trying to get to the point where I can get something going in a drone for over-the-top surveillance to combine then with the ability to use the ArcGIS mapping system and basically have farmers be able to just stand on their property. And I'm kind of doing this with screenshots from the mapping right now, but like, get the drone up in the sky and be able to use I think the tunnel technology you're doing with Open Interpreter and 0.1 to basically send that telemetry back and have it analyzed on the ground. I'm not worried about controlling the drone with AI, but there's all the updates I got in. Yeah, any feedback or collaboration, or if anyone wants to dive in, I mean, I'm so open to some teamwork and help on all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to DM you if you don't mind. There's a few things I'd really like to touch base with you on.
Do it to it. I would love it.
Yeah, just keep it to like, gardening and fun stuff. Keep it away from, weapons.
That's true.
And-
On that too, farming, like this approach to building AI, I wish everybody was like you too, dog. You embody the perfect. I have a problem in my life. Oh my God, finally now there's technology that can help me solve that problem. Let's build it. Let's build it in public. Let's share it and make it address like I obviously like everything too that this whole society is built on farming and agriculture and so to do that efficiently and to have that like by it just is it's so the opposite of what like um approach that does not always work is there's technology that's out there. Let's find out how to solve a problem. And you're coming into this with I have a problem and I know my niche really, really well and I know what I want to solve really, really well. I know that you're going to be incredibly successful in that you're going to build some of the most incredible technology that that's going to help a lot of people. I can't believe so okay. Flipper Zero is involved in this. Is it running code on the Flipper Zero, or it's like it's flashing to the Flipper Zero, or how's the connection in between those? Like, I don't know. That my ear perked up at that because that's interesting.
Thank you very much for the kind words, first of all, and I appreciate that, man. And I'll just say, like, yeah, the like sparks that are falling on the floor. I'm starting to realize the value for accessibility and getting some of these skeletal systems shared. So that's why I'm really looking to try to collaborate and just get the nudges I need to just like get it out there. Because I mean, I don't know, I'm blah blah blah. So Flipper Zero, yes, where I'm at now, and this is why I've been so adamant about catching up with Mr. Bird for some workshopping. It's like I've got an app called USB Serial Terminal running on Android. You can hardwire that with a USB-C connection into the Flipper Zero. And then with Termux and Activity Manager, I have gotten it to pass actions, but it is not fluent. I mean, it's going to need potentially 700 characters or something of like extreme multiple few shots and like really just having this thing do nothing in its world but passing exact code to from Termux to the USB serial terminal. And then from there, yeah, you can write scripts automatically. I mean, potentially you can write any text file into the file management system through Open Interpreter on Termux, and then you're just in a perfect world when I get the parameters dialed in, just passing that through Activity Monitor or Manager, to the USB serial terminal. So the other option is can just literally write, just plug an SD card into the computer and have OI write scripts, load them into the folder, give it something of a custom instruction of what folders are where. I've been playing with like signal jamming completely at home for my own good. Nothing to do with dropping drones or blurring out facial recognition or anything like that. And absolutely, I'm just kind of, blown away. So I feel like if we can grease the skids with custom instructions and get this thing perfectly communicating between Termux. And I also think that I want to figure out what bounds we can push in Termux to get it as updated as possible, on device. So, but yeah, that's where that is with the Flipper. Really wild eye opener though for IoT sensors and the sort of hardware connections and just all the magic wand sort of connectivity. I think, that everyone in all these niche environments are going to have.
Yeah. Oh, that's so incredible. There's one other thing too that just I remembered you mentioning earlier that feels worth talking about for a second, which was Octopus holding octopuses on each hand. As Abe too, developing computer tools and Emil, it's incredibly underrated, the idea that you really can just apply this stuff everywhere. And if you have language models and you're using them, just selecting them to use tools is one thing, but to anybody who's building this and is building any kind of agentic function calling, those tools themselves can really benefit from themselves having agents or themselves having a language model in them. One of the huge, at the very first launch of Open Interpreter at launch was something called Language Tools, which became the Computer API. And we since removed it because I kind of thought the models were going to get smarter, but it had a summarize tool, and it was so wicked. And it was just powered by itself passing to a small dumb model the big text that the language model wanted to put in, and then just getting a summary of it. So it was just its own way of atomically calling these different things that AI can do. That's a really powerful thing. And so I noticed you're saying that GPT-4o is inside a lot of the things that GPT-4o or Mini is calling. Um, really love that idea, and I've found that is just like 10x the capabilities of tools is just to you can just keep going with that. And those octopuses can be holding them and so forth. The other thing too, GPT-4o Mini, how is that? How are you liking that model?
Oh, for extremely niche performance with few shot examples, it is a freaking champ at following instructions so far. I've not been doing the due diligence. It took me so long to switch over to architecture over prompting and comparing everything through every language model, where it's like I finally just on my desktop version overcame like a 3.5 month struggle with like complete and total Firebase setup and authentication to do what I want to do with context for FarmFriend. And so it's like now that I've finally got it in Python on a device, and shortcuts on a device, and TypeScript and Python on a desktop, in the Pi and all these things, it's like I can finally start to play with the prompting like way big time, because I saw what was possible. That made me realize without architecture, though, it doesn't really matter, giving it the space and the tools it needs to do things. So, but yeah, 4o Mini is absolutely blowing my mind. I'm still extremely impressed with Haiku. Like I said, those Qwen small models are absolutely phenomenal. There's a couple like function calling trained smaller Qwen models I've been playing with, and it's like you really got to slap them around. But it's like, yeah, for the speed and what you can get out of it, I mean, it just liquefy everything. A bundle of snakes, like you said, 27 small model API calls, reiterate 25 times before output, and it's like you're still potentially running on even an edge device local model that's trained and still getting worthwhile output. So I think that there's absolutely something there for getting these much smaller models locally whipped into shape too.
I'm curious for everybody else, unless Emil, were you going to jump in? Yeah, go for it.
No, I just wanted to say, we've been testing out Mini as well. It's the same for images, which is kind of something you have to figure out later on, which pissed me off. I was very excited that images would get cheaper, but no. But it's much better for function calling. It does obey, and for languages, like when we're talking Arabic, Farsi, Spanish, and French, those are the ones we've tested. It does a much better job. Actually understanding what you're trying to say, and they're making them cheaper, as they should. Now it's time for images and video to get just
I didn't know that. I didn't know that images is the same.
Yeah, and can I quickly shout out the accessibility grants real quick?
Oh, of course. Oh my God, yeah, of course.
So, working with Open Interpreter, we kind of launched this with the team here at Accessibility Grants, and we have credits from Anthropic, from Azure, and Azure everything essentially, as well as OpenAI directly. So, anyone who's working on anything to do with accessibility or that could be used for accessibility, I think we're going to be working on some sort of process. Mike, we were talking yesterday about this, but as of now, just either shoot it in the accessibility channel, DM me, or if you just have any cool shit that you can somehow argue for accessibility, that's cool as well. We really want to start using this technology, especially with the agentic models. Executive functioning, the way the brain works in terms of time management, space management, and all those kind of things, and being able to assign agents to different executive functioning aspects of daily life. That is a game changer for literally 5% of the global population. And as of yet, there's nothing that's really addressing it properly. So
Yeah.
if there's ever a place or a community to really take advantage of this and to kind of make this stuff more accessible, whether it's from hardware, like, we're working with human devices, music, which is another one we're working on, like anyone, as long we don't want credits or the accessibility to credits to be an obstacle for any cool ideas. So no strings attached, as long as it's open source, as long as we're kind of sharing. Let's do this. So yeah, I'll now be speechless again.
5% seems low. I don't think there's anybody here who has not struggled with some degree of problems with the executive functions and beyond. There's so much good that can suddenly be done in the world, and Ohana has been at the front of some the most exciting stuff I've seen in accessibility. There is a if anybody's dug into the Open Interpreter GitHub page, you'll have found our vision statement, which is to build machines that improve the human condition. So this is an open community that is attempting to build machines that improve the human condition. And there's a bit in there too about how the genesis of this whole thing and what we hope to start with to help other teams do is language models are an opportunity to make computers easier to use and more capable than ever before. And as we know, computers it's the bicycle of the mind. So it is the ability to amplify your natural abilities and to have just life go well and be managed in the way that people who do have great functions and things do. But so many of us don't, and I very much don't. So I am really, really excited with what you're building, Neil, and I'm so happy that you were like, yeah, let's do this and get some credits out to folks that are building on it, because this feels like the group that would be at the front of building these kinds of really exciting things, like Two Dog. So yeah, the accessibility credits Mike posted in the channel there to those grants, the accessibility grants, to build with Open Interpreter and Ohana, and to do it for free. It's just absolutely worth it. And there's the accessibility channel, and on the 22nd of August at 12 p.m. PT is the next accessibility roundtable. So if folks want to put that on their calendar now and hear about the very front of that tech, the 22nd at 12 p.m. PT. Yeah, a lot of love to you, Emil. Thank you for everything.
I just have one question. It's not quite as wholesome as the accessibility stuff, which I do love hearing about, so I didn't want to interrupt because this is more like just normal business type stuff. But with the interpreter, like installing it from pip and everything like that, and I noticed you guys are launching a desktop soon, so that's awesome, and maybe this is going to kind of feed into that. But I'm working on a desktop app project right now that's focused on like CRM and sales enablement and stuff, and I would really like to be able to pull in an Open Interpreter type of agentic approach so that if I'm like, damn, where's that report I need to send Bob, it can just go and find it for me and then send it through my CRM. Or if I need to be like, I don't know, generate an email for this person based on my notes from my note app, right? Like it can go into my notes app on my computer, look up their name, like all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I want to be able to do with it. But so I'm distributing through Electron, and so I'm just curious, how to, I guess, what's the best way to get started going down that path, or if it's more so like not possible. I don't know. Just that in general.
This is a great question, and this is to Quentin. If ever you want to share what you're working on to, or a link to it or anything, would be awesome to see, because I think that's a really interesting idea to have a CRM, Electron CRM, that has that agentic ability. The Python package is the way to do it. So the way that folks build on top of Open Interpreter now, with that pip install Open Interpreter, ignore the terminal interface. You can do things in Python like interpreter.chat and just ask it those exact questions. Now, probably what you're going to want to do, though, distributing a desktop app, and we've encountered this a lot, is it is very difficult to have people install Python. And it's very difficult to ship Python with a desktop app.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be the main barrier. And there's two things that I think are going to be really helpful then and point to the right way to do this. You know, well, there's sort of three. One of them is that we want to very soon have a Rust version of Open Interpreter. This is like next couple months kind of thing. No Python dependency, and you're going to be able to install it from npm.
Mhm.
And it just the whole thing is going to be able to have all the agentic stuff that Open Interpreter can do in Python. The second way is I've seen some people who have done this with applications, and I don't know how they do it, but maybe some people here will know about it. But we do now have a Docker container inside the repo.
Yeah.
If you build that Docker container, you will get a server.
Mhm.
And the server that's very much part of the agents API, and it's that new kind of server for Open Interpreter that feels very much like interpreter.chat in Python, but it's actually all over WebSocket, and you don't need to know about Python at all. And we're still working on it, so this is kind of like it's in the repo, and you can use it, and there's docs at I think docs.openintercom/server/usage, but those are not super. We're updating those frequently, and we're trying to do things to make it better as quick as possible. But there might be some things that are out of sync. This is like super dev stuff. I'm telling you. But ultimately, if you can just have a Docker image that is part of your app, the Docker desktop app is a real thing. There is a way to get a Docker daemon to be a part of these things, and have a containerized Open Interpreter that runs. You then need to think about maybe some stuff to do with mounting that, and mounting things into the Docker container. It gets a little bit tricky, but there is a lot of functionality that you can get out of having a Docker image and just being able to have that be a part of it. The third is the Agents API. So if you want to have something that is agentic, we are going to have this easy way for you to do that from a npm package or from anything from an Electron app. The problem is it's not going to be running on the computer. So if you ask to go get a note, it's not going to be logged into that machine.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that the best bet here is to either, if it's the kind of thing where you can be working with enterprises, or if it's like you're working with people and you're going to have a little bit more time to have onboarding with them, then you can install Python. It is just an installer from their website, and then if your desktop app then just uses Open Interpreter and just runs interpreter.chat and uses some of the stuff that we have in the examples, you can get then all the agentic stuff that's happening there, and it can go find nodes. So maybe even like, if you want to build that and then pitch it to the community or to investors or something. Then this is an idea of this product. It's a CRM that can go find notes. It needs to find notes. It can go find emails or send emails. That's super compelling. But right now with Open Interpreter, you'll need to have Python installed. So then really the best thing would be we're gonna have a version that does not depend on Python coming out soon.
That's what I was thinking too. Is like if it can be installed through npm, then I can wait. There's still a lot of work to do on the actual CRM itself. So, that's probably the approach I'll take.
That's super exciting, Quentin, too. That's awesome. I'd love to try it out.
Yeah, it's still really early. The app already exists. Like we have an app called Capri that's very similar thought process of this, but the difference is that everything requires like open APIs. But so being able to containerize it into like your personal environment, that's where you need more of an Open Interpreter approach. And I'm really excited about it.
That's such a cool idea.
Okay. This whole project's cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel the same. Okay, only because it just as Two Dog was dropping off, I really wanted to ask this question to everybody. Okay, everybody here has been, I assume, trying to build and to use models and things. In the chat, what is your favorite model? And this is for building things. So I bet we all have models that we like. Like I like using Claude to actually talk to. And for building stuff, though, I have now switched to Claude only recently. But yeah, say 3.5 Sonnet, Claude. But so for building stuff, like Sonnet is it? I guess Two Dog, you're saying 4.0 Mini has been the right cost power kind of thing. Oh my God, is everybody doing Sonnet? GPT-4 and Opus. Okay. Let me on those Sonnet. Something's I don't know what is going on at Anthropic that Sonnet is. It really is like for coding, especially just an easy, huge bump up on Sui is to just switch to, oh yeah, GPT-5.
Someone actually made a post today saying that OpenAI API is dropping tokens of streaming responses, issues is constant ChatGPT app, affects both API and ChatGPT. Why is no one talking about this? Because no one uses it anymore. We're all on Claude.
I have had some token dropping problems actually. Is what I like to say, so I don't have to take responsibility for it on the server. Yeah. Yeah, see, so this is interesting too. Favorite local model is like a different idea too that 3.1 Llama for me has been incredible. I don't use it for building. Mobile GPT. Mobile GPT. Oh, you mean like on your phone? Where like you'll like take pictures of stuff and things? Yeah. Yeah, I get the same. All local models. Yep. Yes, yeah, Two Dog. Perplexity is what backs computer.browser.search. But we're going to switch it away from that because obviously that doesn't give you full control over what's going on back there. Actually, there's a really, really interesting person that we met at the last AI Tinkerers event here in Seattle. Actually, we've known him for a while, but Thomas, who is working on really incredible browser stuff that could easily be like, it's some of the best open source Perplexity kind of type stuff that I've seen. So I think something like that. Oh yeah. Is there a command I can give so it doesn't try to use beautiful soup? This is kind of the extension of that. So there is stuff out there like NatBot from years ago is a browser that is like this. I would think that what we want is actually kind of like GPT-4o Mini within GPT-4o Mini kind of here, where it commands the browser tool to do something, and then we have basically like one of the many open source Perplexity clones being powered by that. We do need a hackathon. We do need a hackathon. This is such a hack like centric family. Like we're all doing the coolest stuff and building on top of each other's things. Like it feels really time.
I'd like to build some hardware for a hackathon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would be really nice to work, like on something, with all these amazing freaking minds in this community, and just kind of get to know people and like something separate to what we are doing on a day to day and what we're doing with Open Interpreter. I think that would be a freaking blast. So yes, please hackathon.
All right, you guys are down. Yeah, we it'd be really fun would be a hackathon where we'll of course do it hybrid so that or virtual so that everybody can be a part of it. But honestly, a dope thing would be to do it at like a Airbnb or a venue or something with 3D printers. So this could be both. Maybe we could do it at. I don't know, James.
Come out here.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it.
I've got a printer that'll print O1 cases in like 15 minutes.
Whoa. Oh my
Yeah.
God, that would be really fun. Oh, that would be so fun.
But keep it friendly to the peasant printers that we have, please.
We could do a human devices launch hackathon.
Ooh. Oh yeah.
I'm probably should shut up before I commit to something and get myself in trouble. But seriously, like it's worth some thought.
That's a really good idea. Hackathon in Shunyata's lab. Do you call
Is
it
this-
your lab?
I call it home. I see there's a lot of questions. Okay. Yes, the printer list. Prusa Mark IV, Form 3, Form 3L, Form 4. I've had some other. Those are the active printers. I got a Form 2 in the basement
Raise
gathering
Raise
dust.
3D.
Oh
Don't
yeah, I
forget
forgot
about
about the
the
Raise
Raise.
3D Pro 3 Plus. That's this one right here. The Form 4 is freaking awesome. To whoever in the chat there just asked.
Forget a printer.
It's a Form 4. Oh, no, that's Abe saying we've got a Form 4. Okay, yeah, things so fun. But yeah, I mean, my problem is my bandwidth is very, very limited. But I might as well, I don't want to like plug my company, but I've just launched a new company called Human Devices. I have a design agency I've been running for quite a while now. I've been doing this for 20 years. Product design. And we're going to be like basically focused on stuff like the O1, like AI hardware developers and things like that. So like I've actually been thinking it'd be very cool to either do a hackathon or find a half a dozen people who really want to hack on this stuff, and I can send them some units and see what they can do with them or whatever. I don't know. I'd love to do something, you know. And I can, you know, to some extent, I can fund hardware and just, you know, donate hardware. But yeah, if anybody actually, not again, I don't want to like plug my company, but if anybody wants to talk more about the hardware end of things, we've got a bit of a ghost town of a Discord server set up. And it's mostly sort of hardware focused guys, 3D printing and stuff like that, product development. So people who are wanting to build products like Friend, stuff like that, it's like a place for people like that. But yeah, I would love to do some kind of hackathon. I'd love to figure something out. That'd be awesome. Oh, it looks like somebody just dropped the invite in the chat. Thank you, Ben.
Definitely get in there. That is such a good idea to do with the hackathon too to begin it, because it is such in the spirit of it, and I'm so happy to get people into Human Devices.
And by the way, I have a great testimonial about Open Interpreter, the community. We actually brought a person on board our team after, I don't know if you guys saw the Hedy demo that someone did, which is like this hat with a camera that can ask questions. And immediately afterwards, kind of got in touch. Within 3 days, he's now part of our like R&D core team. So,
No way.
you know, and you know, James and Abe got to meet him yesterday. So it's also a great place to find some awesome team members. You know, so yeah, man, the community is, you know,
Yeah, it's a really cool community.
It's same for us too. We got Kai and Victor are just literally open source contributors in this. Anybody too, like very, very important, and Mike too. That like through before this too, through the AI Tinkers community, that's how everybody who started this open interpreter thing and is on it has met through that, and that was all through a hackathon. So please, we need more hackathons. We should have a hackathon, Human Devices launch hackathon. There could be a software centric too, and an open interpreter hackathon, and a hardware centric like Human Devices one, or a hybrid, and have us all a meal.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing some kind of hybrid thing, because it's, you know, most people aren't going to be able to travel somewhere. Very few.
Yeah.
You know, and I imagine a lot of those people are doing some of the coolest stuff. You know,
accessibility hackathon. I'm gonna
Has there been any progress on your what was it, the moon model?
Oh, Moondream?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the project. By the way, good to see you, Am.
Yeah.
There is so Vic on Twitter has made Moondream, and this he launched it when we were at the first O1 meeting. I was like Vic was like super distracted, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" He was launching Moondream. It completely blew up. Tiny vision model. Um, and I'm meeting with him on Friday actually to talk a little more about this tomorrow.
There seems
But
like a ton of potential there, just from my own
yes,
perspective.
I
Are
completely.
you
It
guys have
runs
been
on like anything.
training it, right? Are you going to make that open potentially?
Well,
You're
so we're
doing
not
that?
working with Moondream directly in the sense that they like Vic. I think it's Joe or John. I forget who his co-founder is that made Moondream and has that model. We like are super close. And Moondream is in Open Interpreter, but it's like the default way that you do vision. But it's been like kind of trying to figure out the best way to get to like mobilize all the people who are working on this project into making a GUI data set is kind of the next step for all that. Now I know that Vic has told me about like using some of the open data sets that are out there and trying to get a bounding box for GUI elements
Mhm.
inside Moondream. So it does work rudimentarily now. Like he has actually put that in there into the latest training runs. But the real dream here would be to have a model that was every single weight was concentrated,
Mhm.
tiny model, 1.6 billion parameters on taking screenshots and identifying elements on the screen.
The
That
model
would be
that
game changing.
well, the model that's in Open Interpreter that you showed before one time, it was like a Python, all embedded in a Python file. Is that related to Moondream, or is that something separate that you guys made, like Cursor
Yeah, that's
point
something.
model? Is that what it was?
Yeah, the point model of which there's both a local version that's in the computer tool for display
Mhm.
on the repo, and you can see all the code for this. And
Mhm.
there's also a hosted version too if that fails.
The point
But
model is
the
not
point,
related to Moondream, is it?
well, so actually, I made the first version of the point model, and then I sat down with Vic, who made Moondream, at an
Mhm.
IHOP, and he was like, no, 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 and he wrote down on a napkin all the things that I could be doing better, and I was like, okay, and then now that became
Nice.
the point. So in a sense, it has like there's a lot of shared DNA between those models, but they're not at all similar on an architecture level. The way that the point model works is right now in Open Interpreter, what powers OS mode is
Did
that
you say did you say that there's some integration of Moondream in any version of OI or not yet?
there is, yeah. So in the local 3 update, what we did
Mhm.
was we made it so that if a image comes in and it has and it's for a language model that doesn't support vision, we will download Moondream and fire that up locally and then use that and then pass a description of that to the language model. Um, and so what that lets you have is kind of an experience like talking to a multimodal language model. It's
Okay.
not nearly as good as getting a model that is both of those components together, but it does have a little bit of that. And also the model has the ability to ask follow-up questions. Also, very worth pointing out too, what Mike just dropped in here, which is what Agency has been up to, which I think is Kentaros AI. So excited about this. So what they did was they just took Polygemma, which is a tiny model a vision model that Google made, and they just trained it on this incredible data set they have called Wave UI, which is tons and tons of bounding box screenshot data. So this is there are two different approaches here where Moondream is it has a lot of training data, incredible training data, and the custom everything
And that's
inside of
all
it
open
now.
source, right?
Moondream, I don't know how much of some of that stuff is open source. The model itself and all the
Mm.
weights and everything is open source. So you can use it locally, you can use it privately. And
Can you
they're making
contribute to it? Like if you wanted to train certain UI elements with your apps and stuff, can that be
yes.
contributed to the project?
Yeah, actually the last I hosted a hackathon here, which was the AI Tinkers hackathon in Seattle, and it was Moondream and OpenPipe were the two technologies that were in it. And so I got to go around and see people, all these different teams of people training Moondream in like an hour on like Street View stuff and on satellite data and things like that. It actually has a
Right
great
on.
training for Moondream that is
Yeah.
really easy to use. A lot of people were able to use.
My dream
Um,
would be to have a one workflow where I could, yeah, tell the computer to like help me with 3D workflows, like going between Blender and Unreal Engine, because I'm learning a lot of that right now, and just be dream to just have more like speech-based interaction to simplify.
Yes.
So if I could do if I could have any model that I could, find a way to contribute to it identifying different apps, I would totally probably be on board with that.
That's amazing to hear. We should rally around that, and I'm talking to Vic this Friday about okay, let's get serious and do something like that.
Like OpenCV, which is what I think tried and tested, has been working for ages. One of the biggest issues with OpenCV, of course, is getting a trained model in there. What would be the downside of using AI to actually train an OpenCV model, which can run on like ridiculously low hardware? And it's not really using an LLM or anything along those lines. Again, I'm asking for a place of ignorance, but like I've used OpenCV in the past, and I'm just wondering, like, hey, if you can annotate, for example, images, train an OpenCV model, to kind of do a lot more. Is that viable? And if so, like, what is that versus running, a Moondream, rather than just a small open kind of CV model? Or am I not? Is there something I'm not seeing?
Yeah, I have a short response to this, but I kind of know that I'm not the person to have the full response. I think I'm sure there's people here who know about kind of deep neural networks versus transformers and things. So does anybody have a response to that?
Yeah, because I don't know. It just seems like it's a good use for LLMs to actually train those models. But yeah, if anyone here knows anything about that, it'll be very interesting because it seems like a much lower barrier to entry.
So I think that the thing here is okay. So first of all, there's a tiny version of this in the fact that you can get a really long way actually by just using OCR. Like you absolutely can navigate actually quite a lot of interfaces with just OCR. And that's in a sense like let's just use a much simpler. These things have been around for a lot longer. They're much smaller and faster to power this. I think this is a
I think it's Killian.
and I would wager that the more generalist one is necessary for GUIs because it's just so much variety in it. Like, you could totally imagine training something to identify, like, for example, segment anything coming out, SAM2 coming out. That has the ability to categorize, as far as I understand, thousands of different things, but it isn't anything. So you could maybe train one to try to categorize a play button. But for example, okay, well this won't be too relatable because I'm on a Mac and this is why this is, but the close button, the minimize button, and the maximize button, they're all just different colored circles. So the idea of trying to train something to, recognize red circles as close button I think it requires actually all of the generality and the intelligence too of this color button. In Ableton it's a bunch of different clips, but they're just different colors. But there's a bunch of buttons that look like that. I mean the top one. There's no deep neural network that's going to be able to take the top most add button and really understand that and the way that transformers are. So I think this is like an LLM versus previous artificial intelligence tech.
So pretty much it's not about recognizing it. It's more about knowing what it does in the context of the task or the request.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
Maybe. I mean, the first version of the point model, I just tried using all the best stuff that was on RoboFlow for it, and that's that. So RoboFlow, they are a platform that has a bunch of incredible data sets, and they just train these more traditional like CNN or deep, networks for classification and for segmentation to find things. And there was one out there that was for GUIs. So the very first version of the point model that I didn't release, but it was the first version I was experimenting with, was, can we just use one of those? And it was maybe just needs a lot more data. And maybe there's a world where image generators plus training old kinds of things, maybe you can get some synthetic data pipeline here that then can have the speed of the really tiny models combined with the generality of the whole of all of GUIs.
Makes sense. Thanks.
It always just seems like all this stuff is just like one reach away, just one more stretch. The complexity of it is just insane. It seems like calibrating all of these things, but it still just seems like it's still close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Voice
weird.
and automation.
LLMs as well. That's the kind of what I always struggle with, where it's like, are we just using LLMs as a replacement to everything? You know
That's
what I
what
mean?
I think too. Yeah, because
And is that the
theoretically you could have like little applications. LLMs could be like APIs, right? Like you could have the APIs cooked into the language models, and then you're theoretically just calling little mini programs from the LLMs. It's like, so are we just reinventing the wheel here?
Well, I just shared a link that Mike W. I don't know if he's here on this chat. I don't think so. But like Gorilla LLM, which does exactly that, and it's just crazy. And I think the whole point of Gorilla LLM is it just connects to APIs. So I don't know. It's just interesting. It's very difficult to get some developers on board because they're like, hey, I want my code to do X, and I know that it does X. With LLMs, it's like, it's probably gonna do X. So I wonder what.
Well, I think that what would be good potentially in the near future if there was a bunch of LLMs or like smaller specialized LMs that everybody just decided, well, these models are really good at this thing, and then the LMs just started working together. Like you invoke this one, you grab this model from Hugging Face or wherever for the specific type of coding problem. Does that not seem like that's something that could be a realistic outcome?
You might want to check out Phi Data's LLM OS project.
Mhm.
What you're describing is pretty similar to an example they've worked up where they have a central LLM that calls other specialized assistants based on the task you're asking it for. It's pretty cool.
And when people talk about agents, I'm not very familiar with agents. Are those agents like usually a specific language model themselves, or is it just like a abstract concept like neural networks?
I think it's abstract. I think of agents as like as basically like decision-making entities that kind of go off on their own as much as possible and interact with other systems and get information back and things. It is bizarrely abstract. I'll add a little bit to it. Yeah.
Are agents typically generated by language models, or is it that's only part of?
I'd say that it's
other interface.
I'd say that modern agents typically use language models. So like you might make an agent, and then it's that describes the whole entity, and then kind of its brain is powered by a language model. So language models are within.
Yeah, it's like an instance of a language model with a particular set of context that makes it the agent that does whatever the thing it does is. So like a swarm of agents type architecture, you could have an LLM that says, oh, okay, I need this agent, and this agent, and chunks out the tasks, prompts those agents send their results back, and that hub LLM responds to you.
Would
So that's
an
how
LLM,
kind of most of.
would an
sorry, go
LLM be kind of like the functional equivalent of a CPU or like the brain of the agent operations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I so
got
love that. Yeah.
I wanted to shout out Bytes, these guys, and they've heard of you. They wanted to get in touch. And basically, they just have all the open source models kind of hosted. And they're working on that agentic kind of model, and they're charging with GPU inferences rather than tokens. And I'm kind of close to the founders. I met them a couple of days ago. And it's like a one-stop shop almost, where it's just like you can get them to switch from one to the other and extremely affordable. You know, Killian, Mike, I don't know who I should talk to, but